No,
right?
I
So,
haven't.
no, stop. You don't know anything about these January 6 cases. You don't know why these people are in jail. You don't know that a man is in Brooklyn right now for 3 years without charge or trial. And when Donald Trump says these people have been held for too long, you say, no, Trump is wrong. Keep them locked up. That's fucking fascist. For you to sit there and say it is good that he remains locked up is fascism. That is saying the hierarchical system of the courts and the government is just, and the process is all that matters.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We got an epic video for you guys here today where Tim Pool and Luke Beasley, not sure if you guys know who this guy is. Let me put him up on the screen. Luke Beasley looked like Rachel Maddow. Him and Tim Pool get into a heated argument, heated debate over January 6th and the political prosecution. You're going to notice Tim bring up a few examples of how people are being held in jails right now without actually going to trial and being convicted, and they're still sitting in jail. Up until today. So it gets fiery, it gets intense, so get ready, guys. It's gonna be epic. Get your popcorns ready. But before we get the clip rolling, guys, please hit the like button down below. It really helps the channel out. And of course, if you are brand new, consider hitting subscribe. Let's get into it.
We take a look at the body of body politic 20 years. How many right-wing protests have there been over 20 years?
Depends how you define protest, but many. I mean, especially during the pandemic, there were a lot of anti-lockdown, anti-protests.
Over the past 20 years, you had the Tea Party protests.
Tea Party protests.
Maybe, a dozen there too.
It depends on how you define it too. Like, there's some militias out there. They're 3%.
And herein lies the problem.
Proud Boy type groups.
And this is the problem with institutionalized left-right dichotomy. The American colloquial right has nothing to do with white supremacists or anti-government or sovereign citizen movements. Literally nothing. However, the mainstream liberal Democrat position incorporates these groups in some degree into their facets, notably in their protests and in their body politic. So when we say AOC, for instance, is aligned with the left, or how about this? Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren both said violence is wrong. No one should be doing this. It's horrible, but people can only push so far. As if to imply the healthcare CEO actually took an action that warranted the anger of people to be happy that he died. The right doesn't have that. So
they do.
So the Republican Party does not have that.
Like, why for months was Paul Pelosi mocked for having his head bashed?
Being mocked is different from advocating for killing.
Yeah, and respectfully too, January 6th was a big deal.
Yes, quite literally.
You think it's not encouraging political violence to laugh when it happens to your opponents?
No.
What about wanting to
I have no problem.
January 6th rioters?
I have no problem with the left laughing when someone on the right is injured. I have no problem when the right laughs on someone on the left.
I know that's not true.
I think it's both crass.
If we pulled up
the left and the right, nobody should be mocking anybody.
Obviously, Trump is sending a message that such violence is not as bad as the left wants you to believe. If he's going, ooh, you know, whatever he said about Paul, and the lies that were spread about it was a gay affair or something. That's obviously trying to.
It's very different from saying that the CEO of a healthcare company did something to warrant the anger towards him, like the call for his murder. That's very different.
First of all, I don't necessarily agree with that argument, but also for me, I'm just going to be principled across the board because I'm also against that.
Did Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren say people can only push so far?
I'm sure they said something to that effect if you're bringing it up.
What did the healthcare CEO do to warrant anger? What did they do that pushed people so far that they would be advocating for their murder?
Oh, I'm not going to make an argument that I don't believe in.
I'm not saying you should argue for it. I'm saying
you can tell me.
Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren said murder is wrong. I'm paraphrasing, but you can only push people so far. That statement means the healthcare CEO did something that warrants people calling for their death.
I'd love to see the clip if you want me to break it down.
Yeah. Well, what they're alluding to is that the failure of the healthcare industries are responsible for their deaths, and therefore they are murderers.
And what I'm trying to explain to members of my own side, because I'm principled and
you can only. Elizabeth Warren said you can only push people so far. I mean, that's right there.
Right, and so then I would say bad Elizabeth Warren.
But she's mainstream, like liberal. She's a prominent Is there?
Yeah, I'm not hearing that she's not advocating for Biden to pardon Luigi.
No, but I'm saying is there?
But you know who is going to pardon violent people?
Did Chuck Schumer say anything like that?
Did Trump say he's going to pardon?
Who's going to pardon violent people?
January 6th, the assault. He specifically got asked about those who attack police officers. He said yes.
Yeah.
So
How long?
I mean, do you want to run through the Biden pardons and go through ones that
let me ask you a
don't
question.
sound
But do you
great?
see the distinguishment? I agree. There are going to be people on our respective sides we disagree with. Yours happens to be the leader. Well, I don't know how you identify necessarily, but yours would be the guy on your
How long
leader
should-
of your entire movement.
if someone attacked a cop, how long should they go to jail for?
I don't know. A while.
What's a while? Honest
Totally
question.
4 years.
Totally depends on the details of the assault.
Okay, so they took a cop's shield from him and bashed him on the head with it.
I'm not going to give you a specific answer. I would have to look into the guidelines prosecutorially. I'd have to look at other
So
cases.
then you literally have no opinion on Trump's pardons then.
What? I'm saying that Trump,
Trump is
shouldn't
pardoning
intervene.
people on January 6th who were violent and attacked cops.
Yep. And some of them
They've been
are
in jail for
specific-
3 years.
Okay.
How long should they be in prison for?
Yeah, I'd have to look at the individual cases. What some of them wanted to overthrow the government, so that would add.
That
some
would mean
time,
you're
right?
neutral on Trump's pardon then.
No, because I think that the prosecutors who brought these cases, then brought them in front of a jury and got convictions, should be respected. Just like how I don't think that Biden should have pardoned his son, and even though these cases are far more serious, but I think those outcomes should be respected because I respect the justice.
More serious than
And so my point is this.
And then-
if you don't have a thought on how long they should be in prison, it's
Do you
fine
notice
to
that this
say
is what you do a lot. Though?
it's fine to say
Like
if we don't know how the pardon.
your argument fails, you're just gonna ask hyper specific, slightly irrelevant questions to me.
How is it irrelevant?
About because I don't think it's relevant for me to figure out because I didn't sit in these courtrooms and listen to the details of every case exactly how long each one should.
How
be
could
in.
you advocate for someone to be in jail if you don't know?
Well, I can tell you because Trump is saying we should subvert that process because he thinks what they did was patriotic, and should then pardon them.
I don't. Has he specifically said it was patriotic to do that?
Yeah, he. I mean, he like salutes to that song they sang every single.
Well, like, is there a quote where Trump said that January 6th, people who attacked cops was patriotic? I genuinely
Because I
don't
want to
know
be fully honest, I will say I'm almost 100% certain he said that at some point.
that the people who attacked the police and were violent were acting patriotic.
Not in that order, but that the
I'm paraphrasing. I'm saying
January
like in
6th, yeah, defendant. And then as we dive more specifically into that,
I think if you're on the left or the right and you attack a cop, depending on the severity of the attack, like if we're talking about you're at a riot and you punch a cop or shove them, 6 months to a year is probably good.
NPR just reported on the 12th that President Biden commutes a sentence for 1,500 people. Some say he could do a lot more. 1,500 people.
No, but he already said that
arbitrary
was
or
wrong. That's
something.
fine.
no, not all of those. I was saying Hunter Biden.
Luke, do you feel as though more Democrats were willing to justify the BLM riots than Republican elected officials were to condemn January 6th?
Well, interestingly, a lot of I will answer the left wing in a second, but a lot of the Republican politicians just changed their position. So initially, it was like unanimously that was bad. Now, almost all of them apologize for what happened that day. And we all, as I was explaining one of the times here, we all missed the broader danger of trying to block the peaceful transfer of power that led up. January 6th wasn't the whole thing. That was the ending, and that was more individuals. But Trump's effort to prevent Biden from coming to office is what I really take issue with. But no, now a bunch of Republicans apologize for it, which is terrible. And then Democrats.
No, but the question was specifically for the Democrats.
Yeah, I'm getting it. And then I couldn't tell you.
Any
my
Democrats
guess,
who were
my
condemning
guess would be
BLM writ large.
that more Republicans have apologized for the violence on January 6th than Democrats. But let me get to the caveat. Then Democrats who apologized for violence during BLM, very limited. They would all say violence is bad, but the cause was.
It's the voice of the unheard, like MLK. Remember?
But then I'd get to, I think it's a fair criticism to say maybe some were too quiet about the violence. Like none of them were out there saying this is fine.
Well,
Yes,
they were
they
taking
were.
a knee. They were taking a knee. Many of them, Nancy Pelosi and
Yeah,
some
but you're
Democrat
mixing like
leaders, and they were
would
putting
show
their
up to a
fists.
peaceful protest, and then as a part of that, people would be exploiting.
Maxine
bad-
Waters with the whole, you have to go find them in restaurants and you have to get
get
in
up
their
in
face.
their face. Like that's not direct violence, but that's something that
encouraging.
was
Here's
widely
two phrases
condemned
for
as
you:
well.
respect the diversity of tactics, and snitches
Keep
get
bringing that up.
stitches.
There, what? Okay.
No, but then Kamala Harris
no,
also
bad.
was posting a bail
Right,
fund
so-
for
yeah.
BLM rioters, and
It's just weird.
so-
Y'all are the ones supporting the politicians who say this, like Trump,
Say what?
who justify violence.
Why did Trump justify violence?
I thought we just went through that.
We didn't. I asked you for examples, and you said I don't know.
This
Don't just
is really
squint at me.
weird.
Tell me what you think.
No,
It's like whenever you don't have an answer, you just get confused and say, "What are you talking about?"
I'm genuinely confused.
Okay,
that
let's
you're
try
not
this again.
listening to me because
Well, I am, but
obviously if
I ask you a question and you just don't answer, and then you go
because-
sophistry.
because I only speak
ad hominem.
I only speak on. I haven't done ad hominem. How many?
All you're doing is saying you do this, you do that, you do this. You're not actually giving me substance.
Oh, no. I was saying I was just shocked that you didn't listen to my substance earlier. But yeah, so the January 6th, while I'm only going to speak on things I'm very informed on, so I'm not going to tell you exactly to the month that they should get. I do respect the fact that they were prosecuted in a court of law, and I don't think Trump to send a message to his base that what happened on January 6th was good, which is why he would do such a pardon, should be pardoning folks who were violent. Or
I think 3 years is long enough.
Yeah, and that's a wrong stance, but okay.
How is it wrong?
I just explained it to you.
No. You didn't. You said the court process should play out the way it is. My opinion on the amount of time should be served for a crime is not just wrong because you like courts.
No, I get
You
that.
need to explain
I'm saying
why the time frame I'm asserting should be longer than 3 years.
No, I'm saying the default, you have to have overwhelming, compelling evidence that someone has been wronged to justify a president stepping in and saying, I'm subverting the justice system outcome. Do you agree with that premise?
No.
That's immoral.
So you're making a fascist argument.
A fascist argument?
You are making the fascist argument that the hierarchical structure of government is just and should be upheld regardless.
Why? Okay, I'm not going to ask that. This is
right. And so the system we have is
I'm just not loving, and this is a way of celebrating violence, that Trump is celebrating those as far as a pardon and in his rhetoric and in his national anthem thingy, people who attacked the Capitol. Why did they attack it? Because they believed lies about the election.
There's a variety of reasons why people were violent on January 6th. Largely that they believe the election was stolen.
You could just be like, hey, that's bad. You don't have to keep going.
I've called for their arrest and prosecution. Like, this is not a shock to my audience.
My reporting
Really
is
disagree.
responsible for the arrest of a couple of January 6th
My point is
rioters.
that if you've got somebody on a misdemeanor charge who's been held without trial, a pardon makes perfect sense, unless you're a fascist and the system is just. So it's like Benjamin Franklin, who said it is better that 100 guilty persons escape than one innocent person suffer. You've taken the Otto von Bismarck approach of it is better that 10 innocent people suffer than one guilty person escape.
No.
Yeah.
Well, okay, you have.
No,
right?
I
So
haven't.
so
The people
no,
that
no,
you
stop.
talk about
You don't know
are-
anything about these January 6 cases. You don't know why these people are in jail. You don't know that a man is in Brooklyn right now for 3 years without charge or trial. And when Donald Trump says these people have been held for too long, you say, no, Trump is wrong. Keep them locked up. That's fucking fascist. Dude, you've been sitting here with no knowledge of the specifics of some of these cases. There is a man in Brooklyn right now. I'm going to say it again. No charges whatsoever brought. He's been in jail for 3 fucking years. For you to sit there and say it is good that he remains locked up is fascism. That is saying the hierarchical system of the courts and the government is just, and the process is all that matters. And I am saying perhaps 3 years is enough, because I actually have moral logic and an understanding of these cases. Hence, my position on January 6th has always been the people who have attacked police must go to prison. But 3 years is a fucking long time for assault on an officer. We have seen people on the far left, notably when they were firebombing shit all across Minnesota, 33 people murdered. And how many criminal charges did we get for this? When they firebombed a police station and forced the police to evacuate. On May 29th, 2020, when thousands of far leftists firebombed the White House grounds and set fire to St. John's Church and injured 100 police officers, how many fucking people went to prison for 3 years? How many of them who never showed up on that day are in prison for 20 years? Enrique Tarrio wasn't even in D.C. on January 6th. And you are saying that man who his only crime was, quote, don't leave. That's his only crime. You think he should be in prison for 20 years because you're a fascist. You don't care what the facts are. You don't care if this is unjust. You only care that the machine state has decreed you are not to be locked up. And this is the problem I have with the left. They don't know the facts. They don't care about the facts. They view morality as a blanket government stroke of the pen. And every person, regardless of their crime, should be in prison for decades. I reject it outright. The people who fought cops should go to prison. They did. It's been 3 years. But when you've got people who are on misdemeanor charges for having walked into a building at 4 p.m. after the riot, and I know some of these people, they walked into a building for 2 minutes and walked out, and they got 18 months for that. I don't see you defending the innocent people who walked onto a public grass at a public building after a riot had been completed. You don't know. You don't care. You've taken a tribal position and people are suffering because of it. Now you say that Donald Trump saying the injustice that we've seen warrants commutation or pardons. You say that means he's advocating for violence. This is the ultimate problem. Then you cite a press release from Maryland saying, but the right's more violent. There is a distinction between a white supremacist as a right-wing group and a run-of-the-mill Christian conservative who showed up on that day not to protest. Let's talk about Brandon Strzok. He never went in the building. He was on the other side of the building. There was a permitted protest. He walked up the stairs and he was yelling. They put this guy in prison. There is Owen Schroyer, who was at a permitted rally, who was yelling death to communists. They put him in prison and specifically cited his speech. My dude, you don't know what you're talking about. And it's fine. I get it. We try to be polite. We try to be nice. But there are so many young liberals who sit here and say, the corporate press told me that these people are bad and the machine state government has decreed it by pen. So I don't care what crime they committed. I don't care what the jury said. I don't care who was on the jury. Enrique Tarrio, who was not there, should be in prison for 2 decades. Tell me this now. Why is Enrique Tarrio in prison?
Yeah, so they uncovered with him his plot to overthrow the government.
Enrique Tarrio?
Yeah, and his organization.
What plot? Who's they? Give me some
prosecutors.
Give me some fucking data. Stop squinting at me and saying the prosecutors did a thing. You didn't know. You didn't read it. You didn't read the court papers. All you know is the fascist machine state told you he should be in prison, and you're saying yes to them. Tell me why. Give me the data.
I understand that laws on the books have been there for a long time that I agree with, that if it's proven that you had a plan and you wanted to act on it, and then days after.
What's the proof?
The proof is
say the proof.
By prosecutors.
Don't ask. Say it.
Communications between
What communications? What did he say? What did he do?
Is this serious?
Are you going to tell me why you think Enrique Tarrio should be in prison for 20 years, or are you going to say the government decreed it?
I just explained to you.
So the government said so. Is that it?
It's usually law enforcement, which I guess is part of the government.
Government said so?
Yep.
So
Law
you can't
enforcement
say why.
that uncovers evidence of communications, a memo that he crafted and sent to his organization.
Saying what?
That detailed each institution of government that they were going to try to overthrow. Then just days later, his organization is at the Capitol.
I don't think we can even pull up Enrique Tarrio.
I'm not quite sure that there's any evidence of that sort.
Yeah. You know what? I'll say this. The idea that Enrique Tarrio crafted a memo outlining who they 3 months featured witness evidence featured Tarrio and co-defense included videos, thousands of messages in encrypted chat groups, as well as a public message on Parler. On or before January 6th, Tarrio convened a Ministry of Self-Defense to coordinate Proud Boys leadership on January 6th. The chat showed that Tarrio, stationed in Baltimore, encouraged the Proud Boys as they attacked the Capitol. Let's figure out what that encouragement was. Are they going to actually say in the article? So here's a citation. Proud Boy and 3 other members of the far-right groups were convicted Thursday in a plot to attack the Capitol. A jury in Washington, D.C. found Tarrio and 3 lieutenants guilty of seditious conspiracy after hearing dozens of witnesses. Jurors cleared a 5th defendant, Dominic Pizzola, on a citizen charge in a significant milestone of the Justice Department, which is now secured a conspiracy, blah, blah, blah. They will never stop. Okay, that's interesting. Wikipedia asserts that they did this, but there's actually nothing in the news article that actually states that is true. Well, now we got a problem. Let's try this again. Let's try a secondary source. Let's see. There it is. They introduced evidence that Tarrio discussed with associates a plan to have a large crowd in Washington storm government buildings in a scheme they called 1776 Returns, in which the Winter Palace was used as an apparent code for the U.S. Capitol. In a message, he said, make no mistake, we did this, do what must be done, and he directed the Proud Boys to do it again. So the question then becomes, in the bigger picture...
So are you going to at all acknowledge that you just blew up over something that I was absolutely citing fairly?
I don't think you cited it fairly.
I think people should be prosecuted for engaging in plans to overthrow a government. That's kind of
that's a very loose definition of plans to overthrow the government.
Y'all don't seem to be that informed.
Wait, look, respectfully, I cover a lot of protests and riots. A lot of people try to protest and riot and occupy government buildings. Do you think that qualifies as trying to, overthrow your government?
No.
Okay, good. So, I mean...
but if they had a plan to take control of the government, which was this one.
If this was an
Is
actual
that
plan, this
a
was
plan?
the leastly,
That's a
poorly,
plan to take
most
over the government?
ridiculous plan ever. They went after people for having Lego sets of the Capitol. I mean, the level of political prosecution here. Would you even admit that there was some level of politics when it came to the prosecution of the J6ers? Would you say politics played a role in this?
Engaging with this as thoughtfully as possible, not trying to grandstand. Of course, often for very justifiable reasons, prosecutors will try to make an example of someone who, for example, tried to overthrow the government to prevent the peaceful transfer of power. I see why such a thing,
personally, I reject the idea that
categorized
is
as
trying to
sedition,
overthrow the government.
would be uniquely bad to prosecutors. And political in that this all involved politics, right? And thus,
I'm sorry, I have
message
to
has
say
to be
this.
sent.
The Wikipedia article making those claims is not citing any actual proof that they said those things.
Yeah, there you have it. There you have it. I love it. I love how actually Tim kind of reverses this on Luke, right? By calling him a fascist. Like, you noticed when he called him a fascist, Luke, he was almost like in shock. Like he's never, been called that before. When in reality, what they believe and what he was saying and what they push and advocate for is total and complete fascism and authoritarianism. And they don't realize it. Nobody ever challenges them on their ideas and their thoughts. And it looks like this was probably the first time that Luke faced any type of pushback for his ideology. So let me know what you guys think. Hope you enjoyed this video. I thought this was a good one to share with you. Let's talk about it in the comment section. And of course, if you are brand new, consider hitting subscribe. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.